Hey there, good afternoon. Is it the afternoon? We're nearly there. It's still the morning. We've got loads going on here on the Broadcast Show today. Make sure you keep up to date with everything. At Broadcast Show is the Twitter handle with the hashtag BVE14. Two more guests in the studio with me. Great to have John Keedwell and Rex Palmer here.
Good morning.
Welcome, gentlemen.
Good morning. Thank you.
We're going to be talking all things cameras and camera technique and training because you've just written this book, haven't you, John?
I have. It's a very fine book, in fact. I'm a documentary camera for 30 odd years. I know I don't look that old, but you know.
Don't look that old at all.
Basically, a lot of it, I realised people didn't know the things that you learn on every day. So I put it all into a book, and I now go out teaching people how to do it, and based on the book. Basically.
We'll come to the book in a little bit more detail in a minute or two. Rex, tell us about yourself and what you're up to.
Well, I'm still a working cameraman. Most of my work now is done with Formula One, travelling around the world, following fast cars.
Lovely.
Which is good fun. But yeah, well, I'm really here because I'm a member of the Guild of Television Cameramen and also involved with the Institute for Training in Television Production, because there is a lack of training for television cameramen. So how do you become a television cameraman? Most of the universities that have media courses, the people that come out of those are more interested in being a director or a producer or something like that. And the people who want to be cameramen don't really get a lot of opportunity for hands-on practice, and we're trying to address that.
And so do you think that this is because there's been sort of the disappearance of the camera assistant, or the disappearance of the apprenticeships and stuff, or the various reasons?
More to do with the fact that people like the BBC no longer train people, because they had all the cameramen they needed, so they didn't think there was a need to train anymore. But they're now finding, of course, that not only they don't have enough cameramen, but they're not getting the engineers through the system, because they used to train all their own engineers as well.
Yeah, and I mean, that's an issue.
And that is becoming a big issue. So they're now having to look into ways of counteracting all of that.
That's actually an issue not just in our industry, is it? In others, we're
right.
short on engineers.
No,
it goes right across the board from television and in feature films as well. They're having the same sort of problem because nobody wants to pay for a trainee on a set, and that's the only way you really learn. You know.
Oh, we think this is also, do you think, a consequence of people, you know, absorbing and watching their media and watching the difference with the laptops and watching things on tablets and all that kind of stuff? So it's something that we're seeing a knock-on effect of.
Yeah.
I think everybody thinks because you've got a camera on your phone, everybody thinks they can shoot a movie on an iPhone.
Yeah.
Well, you could if you wanted to, really. But it wouldn't be a really good idea. It would drive you mad after about a day because of the ergonomics of it and the lenses and what it can do.
Well, I also think the point is that you could go out and shoot, and people do shoot things with putting extra bits and bobs on iPhones or on mobile phones.
Yes. Indeed. Yeah.
But the basics still need to exist.
Exactly.
The framing and colour temperature and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Which I guess this is what. Did you like that? Did you like the lead into that? Yeah, I mentioned the framing and the colour. So this is the book.
Yeah.
Get the message now.
Yeah.
What's the message?
Hence, the message is basically what are you trying to say, and the best way of doing it is actually showing. Basically, if you don't do it right, the audience nowadays will turn off.
Okay.
Because it's a sort of you can have a 4K television and at home and buy a nice big spangly 4K television and watching all your stuff on it, but if it's actually not a high quality now, I think it's going to more. There's the YouTube kind of side of things, where it's a cat falling into a blender or something or whatever.
Just shoot anything to do with a cat and put it on YouTube, and there's your audience.
It's funny, but it's like it's all wobbly scope and it's all whatever. So if you're talking about actually getting a message across, whatever a message is, whether it's a drama, whether it's selling a commercial for anything, you need to do it. You still need to have those skills to get right, basically.
So is the part of the thing that the training's not there, as we've discussed, is that because the training, you covered the different genres and as well as the techniques and the different skills?
I think part of it, I'm sorry.
As I say, it's the basics. I mean, the training did cover the basics. So once you've got the basics sorted out, then you can then develop from there to go on to what the different genres are. But I mean, a correctly framed shot, it's a correctly framed shot no matter how you're doing it. And the people aren't learning those basic techniques.
I think also as well, everybody is expected to do everything nowadays.
Yes.
Whereas 20 years ago, 30 years ago, it was, you are a cameraman. You never touched sound and you never did, whatever. and
They never
editing.
would.
And now
It wasn't you don't touch sound. I'm not touching that. I'm not allowed to touch it either.
So now it's, I was hearing a talk on the other day, and he said literally, I've got to produce it, I've got to light it, I've got to shoot it, I've got to edit it, I've got to post-produce it, I've got to get out and actually, it's almost like a production team that you're doing yourself, which is fine if you can do all those things, but you actually get to a point where you're diluting skills to a degree, and it's actually a lot to know. It's an awful lot to know to be a cameraman or camera person, but in terms of lights and all the latest things, and things are moving at such a pace that a camera is now out of date within a year.
So you think that does this have to do with shrinking budgets as well? I think it does.
That's a factor.
I'm thinking in the corporate world as well, is that the one-man band, which is a term I use a lot, it's not necessarily one man, but it's or one woman. It's one or two maybe, or the bedroom editor kind of thing. So you're up against that in that competition.
I think in one way it's great that people have that flexibility now, which you could. When I started, it was all you had to be a union member.
Yeah,
I know that.
Union? What's that?
You really don't look that old.
I just had a hard life. There's a hell of a paper round. So
uphill.
Yeah, up the Himalayas. You had to be. You couldn't get a job until you got a ticket, and you couldn't get a ticket without having a job. So, and I learnt that way. But it's basically. I saw a guy the other day. He must have been about 15. And he said, I'm a DOP, I'm director of photography. And you kind of go, I don't think you are. You have to, maybe another 20 years you might be, Not really funny, but
I know, I keep
DOP
calling myself an executive producer. And no one seems to know what that is. Yeah, but it is, you can just go, I'm a DOP.
That's right.
Yeah.
Call yourself that. Whether you're any good is another matter. Whether you'll get the follow-up job for the one you just done, that's another factor, of course.
So some of the best cameramen I know now, not some, the best cameramen I know now, all started as running or as camera assistants.
Or the equivalent in television. That's more in film and television. It was a slightly different route.
Or they've gone through that BBC training. So that's the big thing that's missing. So are you filling the hole with the book? That's the idea?
That wasn't the intention initially. It was actually to write a book and actually write a book because I wanted to. It ended up being, well, if I have to explain what colour temperature is, and how you write, it's actually a bit more than a book about how cameras work and whatever. It's how to choose a camera, what they do and what they don't do, but also how your eye works compared to a camera, and actually and how different, and knowing what the camera can do and what it can't do compared to your eye. Your eye is very adaptable, and once you know that and actually know what colours and a whole bunch of stuff, you can actually go further on and actually kind of go, the limitations of it. And actually then go, well, actually, it won't do that, so I won't do it that way, I'll do it this way. It's knowing that. Don't think you tend to get taught that. Or the way you learn on the set is you watch other people who are masters at it, doing what they do, watching directors of photography, proper directors of photography on a movie or on television dramas, or television, and you go, well, that's interesting, they've done that, okay, and they've filed it in memory banks. And that's how you move up. Whereas now you're either a cameraman or you're a runner, And when I started, I went to university and studied that way in film school, but I still went out, the first job I got was a runner.
Yeah.
Worked up through clapper loading on film and, on promos in the 80s and 90s. I moved that way, and I learned by watching other people who are really at the top of the game.
So do you think that part of this is to do with, we live in this kind of instant world now, don't we? The fact is, you can now, so let's take it, a digibeta camera for TV stuff beforehand, because that's looking at the kind of TV side of things. So it was that, the tape went off, that has to be digitised, do all that. Now you literally rip the cards out the back of the camera, shove them into the laptop, and that's what you've shot there.
Yeah.
So is that part of the issue?
Yeah.
That people just go, and as a,
it's almost too easy, and that's the part of the problem. Yeah.
And anxious to be able to go, I can do it, and I want immediate results.
It's great when you can do that, and the immediacy obviously is great. I think once you start going over into a full-blown production where it's a commercial or something moving on from that, I think you have to have some kind of control and knowing what your limit, like shooting it all raw, so it's all flat, and then grading it afterwards. It's knowing that bit is what being a DOP is or being a proper camera person is, you know.
'Cause I guess some people starting out would think that the grading or the colour correction stuff is fixing it in post.
Yeah.
That's the kind of thing. I think is that because those tools have developed so much further and are more readily available and, for want of a better word, cheaper. Is that a struggle for the craftsmanship?
The fact that now you can buy a computer, a laptop, and a bit of post-production software, and you can produce 4K resolution movies on it.
But of course, if it's out of focus in the first place, you can't correct it.
Yeah.
So it's basics like that.
With bigger sensors, you get less depth of field and that. So you need, in a way, the camera crews to get bigger now, not smaller. And they seem to be going, we'll cut them down as much as possible, and then you actually need the people. Certainly, a good trained operator on television, if you're pulling focus yourself, and if you're doing a movie, a focus puller, and then somebody to deal with the data afterwards, and not rewrite the data by mistake, which has happened.
And that's happened a few times.
Yeah.
So the book, Get the Message Now, this is aimed at those that are just starting, those that have started. Is it a refresh for some people as well, do you think?
There's some things in there that people might be intrigued about because they won't have thought about it before.
Yeah.
There's a lot of this is starting the business. So if you're shooting on a DSLR, what are the limitations of shooting on a DSLR? And there's quite a lot of the ergonomics of it and the whole lenses and a whole bunch of stuff that people don't necessarily think about. So a lot of it is a starter, and it leads on to, I've set up the Epics Academy, which is a new thing, where I'm actually teaching hands-on workshops of people to actually say, okay, it's great reading it in a book or online, but actually this is what you do, this is how you move a light, this is where you put it, and actually do it for yourself. So next time you do it, you know. So a bit of training. You're not going to be learning a camera in a weekend, which is what the course is, 2 or 3 days. But you know what colour temperature of light is, you know where to put a microphone and where to shoot something and how to use light, and then go on from there.
Rex, I guess you never stop learning. The whole point is you never stop, do you? You're off around the world now with Formula One, with different cameras, with different stuff, and I bet you're still learning?
Yeah.
A little bit every now and then?
Every day, yeah.
We're all
you get put in a different situation, something new. And another thing on my side, that sort of thing, of course, is the safety aspects as well. You've got to think about the safety. Don't put yourself in a position where,
particularly in an F1 pit lane.
Exactly.
And
accidents do happen. I mean, last year a tyre came off a car in the pit lane, and the cameraman got hit by it. So, I mean, you've just got to be so careful.
So where do you think we're going to go with this? Do you think there is, or is there already are we starting to see a shortage of, how should we term it, qualified broadcast quality camera ops? We're talking studio and location. So this is all part of the drive.
Again, because of course there are different techniques, working a camera in a studio or working out on location. And you ideally you should be trying to learn both.
So I guess, I feel as if I should now represent the youth from now, the younger generations coming through and coming in and saying, well, hey, do you know what? I can get a C100, I can get a 5D, I can get a GoPro, and I've just taught myself, and I can do that, and I can go off into the corporate world, and you know what, I've made this great movie, and it's got 1 million hits on YouTube and stuff. They would argue that they don't need it.
Yeah, I think that's great because, for example, Slumdog Millionaire, they shot some shots on that on a small, it looked like a camera, like a stills camera, because they couldn't get access otherwise, and it actually was drawing too much attention to something. That's great. It's you're actually using the appropriate tool for the job. Now, the appropriate tool may be a GoPro, or it could be an Epic Dragon, or an Alexa. You can cut those together if you know what you're doing and actually cutting it right. You can put those two together, and I've done it with an Epic, and you can't really tell the difference because of the way they're shot and the way they're done. So it's actually picking a tool. You wouldn't pick a teaspoon to dig the road up outside, but you
there a long time.
Well, you could do eventually, but it'd be really horrible. But it's picking a tool to actually do it as you go, and actually knowing the tool to pick a thing. I use probably 5 or 6 cameras, and just go, that's the one for that job. If you want a GoPro inside a car, you're not going to get a Dragon with a 10:1 lens on it.
So what do we say to people who are here at the show, and it's the last day of the show, I know there'll be a lot of students around, hence we have you here today. What's the advice for them, or the pearls of wisdom that you give them for getting into the, if those get interested in getting into the broadcast side of things?
I think keep on learning. You never stop learning, because the business changes in 30 years. I've been in it, it's changed dramatically. I was always shooting on film 30 years ago, and now I don't touch it, obviously, you know. So the skills have been a clapper load on 60mm documentaries are not really needed anymore, to be quite honest. Never stop learning, and never think you know it all, and actually look at somebody and almost get a mentor and kind of go, actually, I like his style of lighting. Or, you know, Chris Menges in particular, he gave the thing in the book for me.
Yeah.
He's got particular style lighting, and actually there's a lot of references in the book to The Godfather and lighting in Godfather when it's really top in. He's got panda eyes. He said, don't do that. He won the Academy Award for it, but normally you don't want to do that, you know, because he knows what he's doing. So just take and actually look at movies, look at art, look at Turner paintings, look at Vermeer, how the light goes, and actually there's a lot of references in there of different things outside of that about how to look at things and how to look at things in a different light, literally in a different light, again and go, that's interesting. Well, you normally pass it by, you know.
It's really good advice, because that goes back to this whole thing, I think, of the immediate, of being able to go, right, I can get this camera, I can shoot this, and I've got it, and I'm there. And it's actually a lot of what goes into camera work and into cinematography is everything that's around. It's the art, it's what's in there.
Right.
That married with the technical side of things.
Watch television, and decide why you like what you like in terms of the way a program has been shot or filmed. Things like, you know, fairly obvious things that we would know about, but you might not, about matching close-ups, matching the size of shot, changing the angle to achieve a particular effect. All those sort of things that the only way you can really learn them is by actually doing them, having seen what other people have done and tried to work out why they've done what they've done.
Another thing is a sideline to that. I work with lots of directors, and obviously over the years. I would say the best directors are either a cameraman first or an editor.
Yeah.
And if you're a cameraman editor, some of the best directors, literally movie directors I've worked with in the 80s doing promos, they're movie directors doing Tomb Raider and things like this. He was an editor beforehand. And you know how to construct a shot, you know how to construct a sequence.
Because you know how it's got to go together at the end.
You've got to cut it.
Exactly.
So, show floor, very busy here. Been a great couple of days. Have you had a chance to look round? Is there anything that nodding? Yes.
I've actually been here for 2 days, but mainly in talks and actually listening to people like Jeff Boyle talking about 4K and sensors. Other people, Adobe. I'm actually going to look around properly today. There's some interesting things. I mean, I say, you know, 4K is the buzzword of the show, I think, and.
I think the thing with 4K was, like, we were talking about this yesterday actually, 4K was the massive buzzword last year. Everyone was going, will it? And I think there's a lot of sexy pictures and stuff out there, and it's just waiting for the delivery really to catch up, isn't it?
It's actually affordable to do it. It's relatively affordable. You know, a Digibeta was 70 grand a few years ago, you know, and it lasted 5 or 10 years. Now you can buy a £3,000 4K camera, £4,000 4K camera, and it's 10 times the resolution, but it'll probably last a year or two, but that's fine because it's almost throwaway. And that's good in a way that it's affordable for people to learn the skill, and they can go out and do it, or buy a Canon or whatever, another DSLR, and then shoot on it and go actually shoot a movie on it, and actually learn. That's nothing wrong with that. You know, that's actually learning. In a way, that's freeing it up to actually learn, actually doing it by themselves. There's a great film a couple of years ago called Monsters, all shot on a Sony camera and edited on a Final Cut Pro in his hotel room.
It's about picking the right tools for the jobs as well, isn't it?
Absolutely.
So it is. And actually just knowing what they do and knowing what the limitations are, because they don't do, you know, even LED lighting, it's Yes, doesn't work like sunlight, exactly, and no light does.
Gents, it's been a real pleasure chatting to you. The book is Get the Message Now. Have a little read, see if you do get the message. I'm sure you will. I'm going to let you go, guys, and have a little wander around the show. Thank you very much indeed, John.
Great,
and thank you, Rex.
Thank you.
Thanks. Guys, plenty more to come from us here on the Broadcast Show. Few more shows to go on the last day of BVE 14. Keep the tweets going. At Broadcast Show is where you can follow us, or use the hashtag BVE 14. We'll see you a little bit later on.